Back to this random live in the beginning of the week before I go to Poland, Krakow for getting my US visa. I hope I will get it, so finger crossed. Before I go travel there, I decided to do this live to talk about conditional self-confidence. And this is what I have been discussing with one of my amazing clients who is now based in Iraq. And the situation that she has described was, I thought, so like fitting, and I recognize and know this situation so much because I've been in this so many times, and this situation is like this. So she was describing that she usually thinks of herself fairly confident person, and she knows what she's doing. She works on advocacy, and when she goes to different meetings or different like conferences and trainings, she looks around, and then as soon as she thinks that, oh, there are other people who are smarter than her, then she starts feeling very nervous and insecure. But if she notices and then she's like, no, 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 everything is fine. Everyone is like as smart as me, or everyone is like not threateningly smart, right? In quotes, of course, this is my addition. Then I feel okay and I feel confident. And what to do with such type of conditional self-confidence, right? So somehow we feel like we're good and everything is great, and then as soon as we go into a room and then we see certain people, and our confidence starts diminishing or escaping us. Sorry, there is a chat going on. Excellent. Okay, so I have people watching in the chat. Amazing. So when we have this type of conditional self-confidence, I'm calling it, what can we do and how to tackle it? Right? Is the really the question. And the way that I have been like working with my clients, and I want to give you several strategies of how to do that. But before I do that, I really want you to see several things for yourself when you do this, right? When you condition your confidence, when you condition or tie it to someone else, basically. Because in that moment, when we're scanning the room or the room, and when we see who is there and what are thoughts about them, then we are then making a judgment call of, okay, this is safe to be saying things, or this is not safe to be saying things, or this is safe to be being myself, or this is not safe to be being myself, so I need to constrain, right? So this is really what's happening, and of course it's like within seconds, so therefore we feel like we can't really help but be changing how we show up depending on who is in the room, right? So I'm assuming that you can relate to this. So one of the things that I really want to see is when we think that other people are smarter than me, obviously we're saying also we're not as smart as them. And that also assumes that we're somehow quantifying, like saying that there is like different levels of smart, and then someone else is higher than me, and therefore I can't really contribute the way I want to, I can't really say the things that I want the way I want to, or maybe even if I say it, they will not really uh, use it, it's not an added value, maybe this is what we're thinking afterwards, right? So this leads to a lot of different thought processes that I really want you to be like aware of them. Another thing that I think we think about if we're thinking that others are smarter than me, also maybe we're not really valuing our voice, our contribution, or we're not even uh, like debating with them, we're not really objecting to their contribution if we think that that we don't agree with them, but we don't really tend to say that because we're afraid of coming out as fool, or coming out as, excuse me, not as smart, because we're qualifying their contribution like to be more valuable, to be more important than ours, right? So therefore now we're not even objecting to them if we wanted to, or getting into the debate with them or discussing things freely, right? We're not probably doing that so much because we're so much in our head of how they're smarter and we're not comparison, and therefore we are not really relying trusting our wisdom, we're not really trusting our voice, we're not really showing it, and therefore we're just like um, creating all of these insecurities for ourselves, right? So this is what's happening in that moment. And and the other situations where we feel like, well, everyone else is like fine, and I'm not really, I'm feeling safe to be me, then we can do all of these things. We can really be ourselves, show up ourselves, and contribute in the way we want to. This is what's happening. Now, in that moment, what can we do? And then, of course, we'll be talking about what we can do outside of that room in general, right? But in that moment, if that's happening where we're feeling like others are smarter than me, and then and that I shouldn't be really saying things, or I shouldn't be, or whatever the version of starting to constrain, if you notice this is happening, right? So what can you do in that moment? Is one of the ways, of course, is to also think that yes, others are smart or smarter than me, and me as well. But if you feel like you can't really believe that, or if you feel like, no, 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 that's like too much of a stretch, I can't compete with them, or whatever, that you are putting yourself in the situation of how you can be as them, then the other thing you can think about is how that line of thought will get you to the place where you really will not be contributing as the way you wanted to. So, therefore, the other strategy is focus on the subject in that moment, meaning that, okay, I'm here to discuss these things, or I'm here to learn, or I'm here to get the decisions on this topic. So, I want to focus on that, because if I keep focusing on them, or of being how smart they are, or on myself being how not smart I am, I go into the whole like rabbit hole of how things are not right, I'm not confident, da, 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 all of these things, which I don't want to go into, right? So I intentionally shift my focus to, here is the thing, the topic that I want to work on, and this is what I'm going to do, and therefore not focus on anything else. Because as soon as we focus on ourselves or on the other people in terms of how we're not this and they're not that, then we get even more insecure, that we even forget what we're going to say, how we're going to say it. We may not say it in an assertive way, we may not say it in the way that explains the matter so well, we may not even discuss things. So therefore I suggest like focus on that topic in that moment. Now, once you get out of there, once you are out and then you have looked at the situation and you understood what happened and how your confidence was conditional, right? So it was okay until these people showed up. It was okay until you went to this room, or you started working with this type of person. And then if your confidence shakes, then here are the things you can work on. So one is, obviously you need to look at what are the things you are not accepting about yourself, right? So one of the, for instance, this client of mine, when she says that she just feels great and like an expert, and then as soon as, right, so then obviously there are some thoughts in her in that says that I am as good as something, right, or I'm not as good as other people. So there are some thoughts about herself that she needs to really look at it, and then what is it that she's not accepting about herself being an expert, right? Where are the insecurities that lie that we need to clean up? So that's why the first thing that I would suggest to work on is the acceptance, whatever is that you're not accepting. For instance, in my case, the one of the biggest situations where I needed to work on is, I remember one of my so I remember like going to meetings, and my Russian was not good at that time, and then I would always say that, oh my God, everyone is like um, humiliating my Russian. Everyone's laughing at how I'm making grammatical mistakes and all of this, right? So therefore, my all confidence would just go out of the window. And then when I really looked at it, I really understood that I wasn't accepting my level of Russian. I wasn't comfortable with my level of Russian. I was always like in the criticism mode. I was always in this, oh my God, I'm not good enough in this and all of this. And therefore, I never allowed myself to be there and to be really focusing on the topic. Instead, I was so focusing on how I'm not good at this and all of this, right? So as soon as I accepted saying, this is my level of Russian, this is the level that I am in, of course, I can improve more, of course, I can do more. But at this point in time, I'm accepting my level of being it is. And if people judge and if people laugh about it, fine, it's up to them because I can't do anything about them anyway, right? So this is like the acceptance piece that I needed to work on. So the next piece that I would love for you to work on is that comparison bit. Now, of course, we understand that we humans will always be comparing ourselves to others, probably, right? So there will always be moments where we will be comparing what we don't have, what others have, and all of this stuff. And of course, this also might be a very tempting invitation to go to that rabbit hole of how we're not good enough and how they are this and how we're this. And I suggest let's not do that. And even if you notice yourself comparing, in that moment or outside, you just notice also that that's just an invitation of your maybe desires coming up to say this is what you would like to have, right? For instance, maybe so certain level of, so for instance, when we say someone is smarter than us, what do we really mean, right? So maybe it means they articulate things better, or they use the language in a way that we like, or maybe smart means that they can catch and immediately come up with arguments that could defend or refute one point, right? So whatever it is, so get like curious on what is that smart thing that, or what is that smarter definition that you're thinking of. What is it that you are wanting to have that you don't have, and how can you work on that, right? So comparison could be just an invitation for us to really look at, okay, these are the things that I like about those people that I would like to have that I don't have yet, and therefore here is how I can work on it, instead of going through this rabbit hole of how I'm not good at this and how they're good at this and all of this, because that's not helpful and useful at all. So that's the next thing, right? So the first is the acceptance piece to work on. The next is to work on, even if there's a comparison, just get curious and clear as to what is that smart definition that you're thinking of that you would like to have, and start working on having that. The other thing that the third strategy that you can use is think about those people as being the triggering people, right? Triggering in a sense of they trigger certain insecurities in ourselves. And then we can get curious as to what are the things that we're thinking about those particular people, right? So, for instance, in one of my assignments, I had a boss who was very triggering to me. And at some point, I started like really looking at what is it exactly that's he's triggering in me that I don't really understand, right? So for instance, I had difficulty talking to him. I had difficulty getting his feedback because every time I would get it, I would get so emotional about it and all of this. And then I realized that he was just he had the same personality as my father. And I had a lot of topics with my father back in the day. So that's why I started really looking at and then writing down all of my thoughts about this person, about this personality, right? And then I was looking at them and I was like, okay, what do I really want to do with this, right? So because I really respect him as a colleague, as a boss, I really want to work with him. I have a lot to learn from him, and I don't want this type of triggering situation getting in the way of me having that relationship. So therefore, I have really like understood why I was feeling triggered, and I actually even went to talk to him about this, right? Which is also another thing you can do if you choose that's appropriate to talk to him about this. And when I talked to him, and I even like had a conversation with him about how certain things that he was saying, certain ways he was saying was triggering to me because of my past, and I'm working on that. So that's like my topic. So it has nothing to do with him, and therefore I just wanted to have this like honest conversation and vulnerable conversation. And afterwards, I felt so much relief. He really was very supportive of what was happening. And he was also saying that if there's anything he can do. So it was like such a great way to resolve the situation, I felt. So that's why, depending on what situation you are in, right? So you can also look at all the triggering thoughts about this person and then have a look at it. So it may not really be to do with your confidence as such. It's just that this particular person maybe bring up thoughts that you didn't really think about, or you didn't, or maybe they remind you of someone. So that's why it's something that you can really work on that. The uh, the fourth strategy, I guess, is the one that I really love, is where we we know that we have the, like, we can feel the confidence, we can feel the self-confidence because of certain thoughts that we think about ourselves, our abilities, and um, we we have those feelings, and then if that becomes conditional, we really want to look at that conditioning of what that conditioning is. For instance, conditioning might be just that I don't want people to judge me, right? For instance, and therefore we're just this I don't want people to judge me, maybe being represented as, oh, others are smarter than me, and then we start judging ourselves, we start judging them, and therefore we're actually doing the things that we don't want others to do, right? But that may just come down to, I don't want people to judge me. And I think this is such a huge topic for many of us, that we don't like being judged, and that's very understandable, judged especially in the negative sense, right? But if you really think about it, we also have no control over it as well, right? So there's absolutely no control over um, how other people judge us. Meaning that even if I don't want other people to judge me, there's nothing I can do about it. They may judge whichever way. They may judge the positive way, the negative way, whichever the way. So untying that link is, I think, very key. And the one of the ways that you can actually untie it, not only that you can think that, well, there's absolutely nothing I can do about it if people judge me, right? But also, what if we encourage people to judge us, right? So we encourage people to judge us so that we are embracing that, in a sense of, yes, people will be judging us. This is how nature of human experience is. There is nothing we can do about it because it's out of our control altogether. We can only control what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and how we're using that information, how we're acting on it, right? What results we create in our lives. This is like the only things that we can control. Everything else is out of our control. So instead of fearing, oh my God, will they judge us? Will they think of us in a particular way? What if we actually thought, yes, they will judge us. Yes, they will think of us in a particular way. And that just brings so much freedom, right? I really feel like that brings so much freedom within me. And of course, um, it took me some practice to get to this place, right? So it's really like the matter of practice. And still, there will be moments where some people judge me, and that will sting, and that's just part of it, and that's okay. because even if they do judge me and even if they do tell me, again, there's not much I can do about it, right? So even if I like resist and I'm like, oh no, I don't want people to judge me, there's not much we can do. So therefore, untying our self confidence from all of these judgments and like, yes, people will be judging me in all different ways. This is up to them. And here is up to me is how I'm going to say the things. How do I want to say the things? How do I interact with people? How do I show up in that room, in that conference, or in that meeting? What do I want to say? What do I want to focus on? These are all up to me. And then I just get to focus on those, excuse me, on those things. And this is really my invitation for all of us is to think about, okay, if we keep conditioning our self confidence to the external matters, to external people, to other people, right? Or to our thoughts about those people, then we will always be fluctuating in, oh my God, here I feel good, here I don't feel good. And then we'll be always like looking at the room of, judging and weighing the temperature of where we can actually people please or where we can actually be ourselves and honest and in the way we want to and then show up the way we want to. And if we're really not wanting to do both of them, but it says focus on being who we are and saying the things and contributing the way we want to, then it's time to untie that link or untie that conditioning and make our self confidence unconditional to any of those environmental factors outside of us, basically, right? So these are the strategies that can definitely help you to untie that. And of course, I invite you to coach with me so that we can have a look at where exactly you are tying your self confidence to someone or to something outside of you, and how can we untie that so you can always show up the way you want to and contribute the way you want to, work on the things to create your impact the way you want to. So, my dears, have an amazing week ahead, and I will be speaking to you soon from Poland. Thank you. Bye.